Alright, video 2. This is going to be more free flowing. I'm only going to record this once, to be honest, so I might tangent, I might meander. I do apologize for that to begin with. It's just a broad topic. But anyway, this is you're stuck in a garbage pile hole. How do you get out if you can't read code? Because like I said, I can read code, but I don't want to fix any of this. I know the problems, and I don't want to fix it. So, here's some stuff that we do as devs that you can get Claude to do, or any LLM, to kind of clean up its own mess. Before you do any of these, definitely have a backup of your project, especially with cleanup, because it's fixing issues. It could make things worse because you're in a garbage pile. Reality of things. So make sure you have backup. If you don't use Git, G-I-T, that will save you a lot of issues. And once you start doing this, it's helpful to do Git for other reasons. But anyway, just forewarned, you can definitely run these, but don't have Claude fix anything until you have backups, because like I said, it can make it worse because you're trying to dig out, and you could have you could step on something that pushes you deeper down. That's the reality. So high level, again, if you can't read code, how do you get out of this? And how you get out of this is asking Claude to identify issues and then fix the issues. That's very high level. So if you've never done this before, basically the idea is tell Claude, go look at my project and identify brittleness and maintainability issues. That signals to it to look for garbage code or stuff like that. So I ran this project wide, and I also ran this I ran this on a specific file to show you the difference. But just, if you've never done this, it's good to just do project wide. It's not going to go into a lot of detail. Even though I told it to project wide and be systematic and make a to-do list per folder. And then when you find issues, tack them onto a doc. It ignored me. It went through all the issues, found the folders, It did do some thinking. But it didn't record it till the very end. And worst off, where is it? There was somewhere in here that said, this is good enough, I found enough issues. And that's what happens with LLMs. If you give them a big nebulous task like this, it's not going to find everything. There's some stuff in its training or whatever that says run for this long or find these many things and then don't continue for performance or process saving. I don't really know. But that's just the heads up. If you do this project wide, it's going to be very general. And you just got to run this a couple times. So that is the project wide one. It found, let's see, around about 11 issues. Some of I did tell it to also, where is it? Point them out as if I'm non-technical, but it also didn't really follow that either. If you're non-technical, you don't know what regex is. It did attempt it with a better explanation of high level, but I think I ran into a bad session or something. So all that to say, you're gonna, even if you get this, even if you tell it to treat you as non-technical, it's gonna have a hard time doing that. You're just gonna have to wade through them. But the point is not to necessarily understand these. The point is to just get a list. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a list and then feed that back into a new Claude session and do them one at a time. What that accomplishes is the new session can analyze this and see if it actually makes sense, because sometimes Claude will call things out that, or any LLM will call things out that actually isn't true, depending how it looks at things. So whenever you get a list like this, you always want to run it through a new session as you fix it, so that it can evaluate it in isolation. So that is the project level. We're going to go through some of these in detail, but I just wanted to show the other one. So project level is when you haven't done it ever. It gives you big points to focus on. Once you've gotten through all of those points, you actually want to then start doing it in more granularity. So if you look here, I ran basically the same prompt on just one file, and I told it to find related files and think through them. But the same thing, look for brittleness, look for maintainability issues, and do this systematically. Again, it identified everything and then gave me everything at the end. It did not do them piece by piece. So, but if we look here, just for one file, it identified some of the same things. So here's this versus this. The suggestion to fix it is a little different, but it's still the same issue. But then this was one file, so it found 10 issues for one file and maybe a couple files versus 11 issues project-wide. So this just goes to show, if you try to do a wide breadth analysis, again, LLM is just going to go until it thinks it's good enough and then stop. You can't trust that this is all the issues there are, because guaranteed it isn't. So the idea here is you run this, fix the issues that make sense, and then run it again. Start with a project one, and then once it's gone through all those, then start maybe doing it by folder. So you can say Claude or LLM, look at this folder for brittleness and maintainability, and see what issues come up. And then after a couple passes, if it looks like the numbers are decreasing, you can start getting more confidence that it's getting cleaned up. The other side of this is you could technically run this kind of thing over and over, and because LLMs are non-deterministic, you're not going to get the same things, and it might just keep identifying smaller and smaller issues. So think of this as a general cleanup thing, not a you're going to find an endpoint or an end place that you can stop. This is more just a general good habit to keep your code clean. Once you've done this as a full pass, it's actually a good idea to, after you have Claude do some code features or one feature, do a similar pass on what's changed, and I'll show that a little bit later. But that way you can, once you're in a better spot, you can keep things clean, so that you don't run into a garbage pile again, or not as big as one. Because even if you do cleaning, LLMs can get confused, blah, 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 blah. So that is the basic process. We're going to go through some of these as someone who can't read the code kind of thing and show you how to kind of work through these. Let's see, this one's saying the function. If you don't know what a function is, it's fine. It's basically saying this code is really big, it's doing a lot of things. If I have questions about this, I would just ask Claude. There's actually a really good one in here. Let's see. Yeah. Here's an issue called out about magic numbers. Magic numbers are, again, kind of technical, but if you don't know what it's talking about, even if you asked it to be non-technical when it generated, you can ask it to explain it more. So let's see, I have this one selected. Just ask it. Whoa. Oops, don't yell at it. What does it mean by magic numbers here? I'm not technical at all. and it'll come back in a bit, and then after get some context, because this is a new session, just hard-coded values that doesn't explain. Yeah, so this is kind of just reiterating. If we go look for one of these numbers, let's see, because I know what one of these numbers is. Yes. So, excuse me. Claude is calling out the fact that we're using a 3.7 number. Strange thing is, there's a comment here explaining what that means. So it looks like based off this comment, or based off this one here, I even called it out. So this is just a example of it thinks it could be clearer. I wouldn't necessarily be against it doing this because there's reasons this is cleaner. But just from a conceptual perspective, if it just parses this, it should have enough context. So this is something I might consider. I might not. You just gotta do it based off your own understanding of what it's giving you versus what it's asking. So hard-coded. Let's see what else is in here. Let's see. Poor error handling, type safety. Yeah, here we go. If you do TypeScript projects, this is a nuisance that you will run into. And this is kind of a chicken and the egg situation, I think. Maybe not. If an LLM generated this code and another LLM called it out as bad code, why would an LLM generate this in the first place? If you were to ask if it's good code or bad code, it will say it's bad code. And that has to do with executing on a task versus analyzing something from knowledge. So as we all know, or if we don't know, LLMs are just trained on a repository of sprawling information. Unfortunately, they're trained on a lot of tutorials in programming that work in certain cases or are like very basic, get you started, but aren't good things to do. There are times when any, for instance, has a place. But I think I said in the other video, most uses of any are garbage code. They're indication that no thought was put into this syntax. And if this stays in here, this will cause your project to turn into a garbage pile. There's technical reasons why we want to avoid this. Mainly, if you don't have this and an LLM tries to then do something that the type that's specified up here doesn't allow, it will break the compiler and stop the LLM from continuing. So doing this doesn't protect us from future LLMs from making changes that will break our app. So that's very high level, very non-technical, hopefully, of why this is bad, why this is being called out by one LLM, even though the previous LLM put this in here to begin with. And this is a very hard thing to break LLMs out of. Even if you document them as do not do this, if they're stuck in a troubleshooting loop, they will do this to get out of it. And that's fine. LLMs are more of an iterative draft process. They're not really meant to give you... They can give you one-shots, but the one-shots they give you are just not production ready. So the idea, the perspective take with any code LLM gives you is it's first draft. If you generate a first draft and then tell LLM to look at that draft, it will find issues with it if it's big enough. And so what you generally want to do is get through your feature to where it looks like it's good, and then like I said, run an LLM on the things that have changed and see what can be improved. And if you can do these small improvements as you go, again, you'll avoid complexity issues as the repo grows. So, again, if I'm a non-technical person, I wouldn't know what this is. And I might then ask Claude, let's see, why is this bad? Again, this is very technical. It didn't follow my instruction of keep this non-technical. But then it gets a little non-technical of more bugs will slip into production. So as you go through these, read them. If you want to learn more, this is the best way to learn about them. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to feed this into another session and it can do the reevaluation for you, and you can usually rely on that depending on the issue. And yeah, if we start going down here, these start getting very generic. Like, this doesn't tell me where the issue is. This tells me there is an issue. So this is the other problem with running like project-wide sanity checks for sustainability and maintainability. But it gives me an idea to then say something like, well, I'm not going to prompt it because it's going to take a bit, but I can basically select this and tell Claude, hey, this issue is identified. Can you find me places where this is an issue that we need to address? And it will go look through files. It can do the same kind of scanning. This is the prompt it's going to look at. And then it'll give you files that you can say, okay, now fix this for me. So very deep, detailed dive into some of these. But I just wanted to give you a thought process on how to deal with some of these. So that's the project level 1. If we go to this specific correlation engine, which I know is where most of my issues are with the bugs I have, we can then just start looking through. Here's more any usage. Here's some stuff with cache expiring. Let's see, complex. Yeah, I mean, anything when it says it's complex is usually a sign that it needs to be simplified. So that's something, yeah, I'd probably just let it do it. Again, as a non-technical, multiple try catches means nothing to me. But let's see. Users see wrong token counts, debugging becomes impossible. Yeah, that makes salient sense to me. So yeah. So basically the idea is to just go through these. If they sound reasonable, or if you want more information, again, just ask Claude about them. If they all sound, if some of them you know are bad or don't want to do, just delete it. And even though it messes with the numbering, Claude, you're going to do these one by one, so it won't really matter. But again, the idea is just generate a report. You don't have to understand most of it. If you just want to generate and feed it back, that's fine, but the idea is identify problems that the LLM can then focus on. And if you get through a full set of these, this will definitely leave you in a better state than where you were. Because LLMs are really good at looking for this stuff. They might get it wrong sometimes. But if you run it 3 times across a file, you'll generally end up in a better spot than you were. So, high level of generating these reports. The next thing I want to talk about, let's see. Yeah, I talked about most of the same thing, or most of the stuff I want to talk about. So you have a report. What do you do with it? So let's say we start with our refactor report. Let's close all this. And let's just say these all look good. I would, like I said, back up anything I have if I'm using Git, commit anything. And then I would just go into Claude and say, take a look at this item. Think hard about it in relation to the code. Go figure out if this is an issue, and then if so, plan how to reliably fix properly, and go do it. Something like that. Again, prompting, depending how you do it, it's going to give you different results, but that's my general prompt. I have it now selected. So I'm not going to run this whole thing, but we're just going to watch it for a bit, and I'll kind of do a announcer play-by-play until it gets old. So this is, because I told it to think hard in Claude, it's now giving me an internal of this is how it's going to approach it. It's read the file. It identifies that it is definitely correct. I've looked at the code. It definitely is massive and needs to be cleaned up, so I agree with this as a programmer. And then let's see. Now I see the structure. And then it's just going to figure out where to refactor and start giving me stuff to fix. Again, if you don't look at code, you can just say apply. If you have tests, this should protect you. If you don't have tests, you should definitely look at getting tests. Ask Claude to do tests for you before you start this process if you can. But otherwise, it goes and cleans it up, and then you get better, and you hopefully can dig yourself out of a garbage pile. Because that's where we all end up with LLM if you let it. So that's the gist of it. Let's see, I'm going to stop that. The one other thing I wanted to show, and I'm going to back that out if I can. Oh, those are my project stuff. Let's see. I'm going to undo that, because I still want to keep this bit here. Cool. So, last fun little fact, last fun little tool, whatever. If I have git, again, git, it keeps track of changes. And I have, let's say I have clean code and I want to keep on a regular basis of ensuring that things stay clean. I can tell Claude or whatever LLM, let's see, go take a look at what's changed in the last 2 commits. Or if you haven't committed stuff, committing just means to push it to the cloud to save it. Let's just say last 2 commits, and check for brittleness and maintainability issues. You can play around with just saying go do a code review, but sometimes you do have to be a bit more specific. And check for brittleness issues. Think about them. Think about what's valid, and output a report. Like, I've given up on trying to get it to output a report as it finds issues. I know how to do it. It's just really aggressive prompting. So here's it running git to find the changes. The reason this is good is it gives it very focused changes to look at. And if there's not a lot of changes, it will do a more granular look at the code. And find it'll be the difference of doing a project level versus a file level. So once you're clean, this is a good way to keep it clean, essentially. But I'm gonna stop this and do that. Escape that. There we go. So that's pretty much the gist of it. There's obviously a lot more to it. Having tests, like I said, is going to protect you. Having build level checks is going to protect you, but it's getting a little technical. So if the only thing you take away here is keeping clean code, just have Claude maintain it for you. The only thing you have to do is make sure to run it on a consistent basis. And then, like I said, you should hopefully have a project that works longer than if you didn't do it. So that's all I got for now. Hopefully that was helpful.